Eagle 95.1, WUPN, Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.
It's time for The Game. Eagle 95.1 proudly brings you The Game, the Twin Sault's only regional and national sports show. For the next hour, we'll get an in-depth look at sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region and hear from coaches and players involved in The Game. Now, let's join Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, for tonight's broadcast of The Game on Eagle 95.1.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to The Game on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason broadcasting from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street on this Monday night, the last night before spring. Yes, spring will be upon us tomorrow, at least that's what the calendar says. Weather-wise, not so much as temperature's still a bit cold, but hey, we have sunshine and we will take it. Our broadcast engineer tonight, Katie Woolen, back in the Eagle 95.1 studios, and we are back at the Wicked Sister after a three-week hiatus because of Brimley Bay's basketball. We're happy to be at the Wicked Sister tonight, and going on at the Wicked Sister, lots of things, including on Thursday from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. Wicked Sister is having their LSSU Engineering Club's fundraiser. 15% of all food sales donated to LSSU clubs for their end of their year banquet. You can come eat and support a very talented group of young adults. Coming up at 6:30, we'll be talking Laker men's basketball with their head coach, Steve Hettinga, after a very good regular season and playoff run. And at 6:45, we'll talk to Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports about what's going on in the Metro Detroit sports world. Now, The Game, a full 2-hour show. We do the first show on the radio from 6 to 7, talking local and regional sports, and the full 2-hour show, which we record at the Wicked Sister here on Monday nights from 6 to 8 o'clock, is available at the brand new podcast page of The Game. And you can find that page at thegamesportshow.podbean.com. We also have our shows from Sioux, Ontario with our good friend Dave McKegg, who can't be with us tonight, unfortunately. We also have selected broadcasts of Brimley Bay's basketball, Sioux Eagles hockey, Butch on Sports, Sioux High hockey, and more. Again, that page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Well, let's get everybody up to date on what's going on in the world of local sports. Let's start with high school basketball, as girls basketball had their finals this week down in Grand Rapids. We'll talk about that in a moment, but we had one EUP team that was still alive last week, the St. Ignace Saints, as they played their Class C quarterfinal against Maple City Glen Lake down in Gaylord, and they fell to the Lakers by the score of 60-56. So St. Ignace ends their season at 22-2, another regional title for Doreen and Doug Ingalls of St. Ignace, but they come up a bit short in the quarterfinal. And so the girls basketball finals took place in Grand Rapids this year, and there was one UP team that was involved, Chassell, a team that hadn't been there since the 1950s, and they fell in their Class D final to Adrian Lawney Christian by the score of 57-36 on Saturday morning. And so Chassell, a very successful season, ending the year at 26-2. Well, I'll tell you, there's something in the air tonight apparently at the Wicked Sister. Must be allergies for yours truly. In Class C, Detroit Edison PSA won their second straight Class C championship as they defeated Ypsilanti Arbor Prep by the score of 51-34. Detroit Country Day claimed the Class B crown, winning their second straight with a 64-48 win over Jackson Northwest. And in Class A, Saginaw Heritage won their first title since 2002 with a 57-36 win over East Lansing. In boys basketball, in the game you heard on Eagle 95.1 last Wednesday night, it was standing room only at the Sioux High Gymnasium for the Class D regional final between the Brimley Bays and the Cedarville Trojans, and it was the Trojans advancing to the Class D quarterfinal in Escanaba coming up tomorrow night as they slugged out a 58-49 win over the Brimley Bays. Tristan Masuga led the way for the Trojans. He scored 20 points as Cedarville raced out to a 9-0 lead in that game and never looked back. Marcus Harris had 12 points for the Bays, who ended their successful season at 20-4. And so Cedarville advances to the Class D quarterfinal, where they will take on undefeated Dollar Bay in Escanaba tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Good luck to the Trojans. The winner of that game will take on either Southfield Christian or the Flint International Academy. Now, Brimley and Cedarville fans, remember that team, as Cedarville did defeat the Flint International Academy during the regular season. Brimley fell to that squad, and so those winners will take place in the Class D semifinal at the Breslin Center this Thursday. On the other side of the bracket, you have Howardsville City taking on Hillsdale Academy, and Hillman, another undefeated team from northern Michigan, will take on Buckley. That game goes on in Gaylord tomorrow night. In Class C boys basketball quarterfinals, one team from the UP still alive, Iron Mountain. They'll take on Maple City Glen Lake tomorrow night in Petoskey at 7 o'clock. In Class B, the team that defeated Sioux High, Boyne City, the Ramblers, still alive. They'll take on Grand Rapids Catholic Central quarterfinal tomorrow night in Big Rapids. And we'll talk more about the boys basketball situation with Butch Davis at 6:45 from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports. Let's move on to hockey. As well, the playoffs have started in the NOJHL and soon to start in the Ontario Hockey League. Let's start with the OHL, as the Sioux Greyhounds really had nothing to play for in their last 3 games, but they had to play them out, and they win 2 and lose 1. Wednesday night, they defeated Saginaw by the score of 8-1 as Jack Kapaka scored a pair of goals for the Hounds at the SR Center on Wednesday night. And Barrett Hayden had 3 assists as the Greyhounds defeat Saginaw by the score of 8-1. Taylor Radich, Morgan Frost, Connor Timmons, and Hayden Verbeek had the other goals for the Hounds, while Tyler Johnson made 21 saves in net for the Greyhounds on Wednesday night. They continued their play this weekend. Again, the Hounds already had clinched the number 1 seed in the Ontario Hockey League. They did drop a 4-3 decision on Friday night to the Flint Firebirds as Rasmus Sandin, Joe Carroll, and Taylor Radish all scored for the Greyhounds. And the Hounds ended their regular season, their best ever regular season, franchise history, on Sunday afternoon as they defeated London by the score of 6-3. So the Hounds end the regular season 55 wins, 7 losses, 3 ties, 3 overtime losses, and they will begin their playoff run, hopefully a long extended run, Friday night at the SR Center as they take on the Saginaw Spirit, the 8th seed in the West. Of course, the Hounds, the number 1 seed, not only in the West, but throughout the entire Ontario Hockey League playoffs. And so Game 1 will be Friday night. Game 2 will be Sunday afternoon at the SR Center at 3 o'clock, with Game 3 a week from tonight down in Saginaw. Other Western quarterfinals see the 2nd-seeded Kitchener Rangers. They'll take on the 7th-seed Guelph Storm. The second-best team in the Ontario Hockey League, the Sarnia Sting. They are the 3 seed in the West playoffs. They'll take on the 6th-seeded Windsor Spitfires, the defending Memorial Cup champions. And number 4-seeded Owen Sound, the Attack, will take on the 5th seed London Knights. In the East, number 1 seed Hamilton will take on the 8th-seeded Ottawa 67s. The 2nd seed Barrie Colts will take on 7th seed Mississauga. Kingston Frontenacs, they earned the 3 seed in the East. They'll take on 6th seeded North Bay. And number 4 in the East, Niagara, will take on Oshawa, the 5th seed. And the playoffs will begin in the Ontario Hockey League on Thursday. And again, the Hounds will start their playoff run Friday night at the SR Center. And boy, the Hounds are loaded up. If you want to hear more about the Hounds, make sure you tune in to Dave McKeag from Sioux, Ontario. He talks a lot of Sioux Greyhounds hockey with our newest contributor on the game, Brad Cochamilio from SiouxToday.com. Brad, a plethora of knowledge about junior hockey and the Sioux Greyhounds. And so you can hear those shows on the podcast page of the game, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Let's move on to the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League as the Sioux Eagles and Sioux Thunderbirds will be tangling in Game 2 of their Western Division semifinal at the John Rhodes Community Center tonight at 7:30. We'll get to that game 1 I should say, in a moment, but the playoffs began on Friday night as the Blind River Beavers picked up a game-winning goal along with an assist from defenseman Ryan Mulligan to defeat Rayside Balfour on Friday night 4-1 in Chelmsford in the opening game of their Western Division semifinal in the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League. Other games Friday night, Mitchell Booth's first NLJHL playoff goal proved to be the game winner as the Cochrane Crunch defeated the Kirkland Lake Gold Miners by the score of 5-3 on Friday in their East Division semifinal at the Tim Horton Event Center. And storming back from an early deficit, the Powassan Voodoos erupted for 5 second-period goals to send them on their way to a 5-2 triumph over the Timmins Rock Friday evening in Game 1 of their NLJHL East Division semifinal at the Powassan Sportsplex. So one other series began on Saturday, and that's the one that everybody here is of interest, as the Sioux Thunderbirds defeated the Sioux Eagles by the score of 4-3 in overtime. A Tristan Cicello goal at 11:06 into the first overtime was the decider as the Thunderbirds pull out a 4-3 victory over the Sioux Eagles Saturday in Game 1 of their NLJHL West Division semifinal at the John Rhodes Community Center. The Thunderbirds got on the board first as Spencer Van Team notched his first NLJHL playoff marker, 3:10 into the contest. The Eagles would strike back to tie the game at 1 as William Casey scored at the 1:42 mark of the second period. Thunderbirds would go on top 2-1. Nolan Ford scored. Then it was a back and forth affair, and the Eagles would score twice in the second period. Nick Teckel scored at the 6:52 mark, and then Brendan Blair would give the Eagles a 3-2 lead heading into the third period. And it was the Thunderbirds that would tie the game in the third as Robert Calisti scored his first playoff marker at the 1:04 mark as the game stayed tied and went into overtime. And the Thunderbirds actually got a penalty shot in overtime as Nick Smith was awarded a penalty shot after a chance in front of the Eagles netminder, but Carter McPhail stopped that shot. But Cicello would be the hero as he scored a high shot from the left point through a screen that sailed past McPhail to give the Thunderbirds a 4-3 victory. Brendan Gordon would finish with 31 saves for the Sioux Thunderbirds, recording the win, while Carter McPhail stopped 33 shots in taking the loss for the Eagles. Again, Game 2 tonight, 7:30 at the John Rhodes Community Center. Games 3 and 4 will be here in Sioux, Michigan at Puller Stadium. Game 3 will be Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, and Game 4 will be on Friday night at 7:30. If there's a Game 5 necessary, that game will be at the John Rhodes Community Center on Saturday at 7:30. And if there is a Game 6 necessary, that'll be at Puller Stadium on Monday, March 26th, a week from tonight at 7 o'clock. And if there's a Game 7 necessary, that'll be over at the John Rhodes Community Center, 7 p.m. next Wednesday, March 28th. Now, if the Eagles do get to a Game 6, we will not have the game here from the Wicked Sister because I will have broadcast duties for Hockey TV at Puller Stadium, so stay tuned. We'll do an online show regardless, but if there is a Game 6, we will not have a show here at the Wicked Sister next Monday. In other NLJHL games on Saturday, making the most of their opportunities, the Timmins Rock picked up a game-winning goal on the power play from Kobe Barrett to surprise the Powassan Voodoos 5-2 in Game 2 of their NLJHL East Division semifinal at the Powassan Sportsplex. And so this series now tied at 1 with Games 3 and 4 shifting to Timmins. Game 3 will be Tuesday night in Timmins. The Cochrane Crunch is up 2-0 in their semifinal series in the East against Kirkland Lake as they pulled out a 4-2 victory in Game 2 on Saturday night. And Game 3 will shift to Kirkland Lake. That game will be Thursday at 7:30. And one game yesterday afternoon, the Rayside Balfour Canadians evened up their series against the Blind River Beavers at 1 game apiece as they defeated the Beavers at home by the score of 3-2. Games 3 and 4 will be in Blind River. And Game 3 will be tomorrow night at the Blind River Community Center. And so you would expect that series to almost go the limit. You would expect the Sioux Eagles and Sioux Thunderbirds series to potentially go the limit as well. You have to stay tuned and see how things develop in the NOJHL. We're going to take our first break on the game. When we come back, we're going to talk college athletics. We'll talk a little bit about Laker spring athletics. We're going to be talking to head coach Steve Hettinga coming up at 6:30. And we're going to talk about brackets. Yes, bracketology. How are your brackets doing in the NCAA men's basketball tournament? Well, yours truly's not doing very well. We'll talk about that and more coming up on the game here on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason back at the Wicked Sister on our local regional and sports show, The Game, on this, well, not too bad, Monday evening. Spring will be springing tomorrow. And, weather is not spring-like here as temperatures will be cold tonight. As a matter of fact, we're supposed to get down into the single digits. But, hey, plenty of sunshine. If you're not doing anything tonight, head down to the Wicked Sister here on Ashman Street as they have a lot of events happening this week. We mentioned about the LSSU Engineering Club's fundraiser this Thursday from 4 to 10 p.m. 15% of all food sales will be donated to LSSU's clubs for their end-of-year banquet. Coming up next Thursday, March 29th, all day long, you can tap your mom on French toast by Pigeon Hill, as they will have barreled-aged stout with maple syrup. And on Thursday, April 5th, all day, Founders Brewing Company is having a tap takeover here at the Wicked Sister, featuring the Wicked Sister's first ever vertical flight, as they will have 2018 KBS and 2017 KBS, as well as 6 other Founders beers. Joe from the brewery will be at the Wicked Sister in the evening. Again, that on April 5th. I want to thank Kathy, Scott, and the entire staff here at the Wicked Sister for making us feel at home. Now, this week and next week will be our last shows on the radio. Because the local sports season winds down at the end of March, we don't do the first hour of the show on the radio during the spring and summer, but we also do the show online. So there will be a game, The Game, sports show, online at thegamesportshow.podbean.com. We'll be down here at the Wicked Sister on Monday nights for the most part. Sometimes we'll have to do other shows due to our schedules, but make sure you keep in tune with what's going on in the world of sports here on The Game. Coming at 6:30, we'll have Steve Hettinga, head coach of the Laker men's basketball team, and at 6:45, Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports. Let's get to college athletics in this segment. And first of all, a big congratulations to the Michigan Tech Huskies as they captured the WCHA playoff crown at the Berry Event Center in Marquette, Michigan on Saturday night. An all-UP final between the second-seeded Northern Michigan Wildcats and the fifth-seeded Michigan Tech Huskies. It was the Huskies skating away with the WCHA crown as they topped Northern Michigan by the score of 2-0. Wild, rabid crowd at the Berry Event Center. And congratulations to Sioux Michigan native and former Laker, Joey Sean, in his first year, already winning his first league title. This is a guy that's won pretty much at any level he has coached, and one of the good guys in the business. So congratulations to Coach Joey Sean as the Huskies won 5 straight playoff games on the road en route to the title. So the WCHA gets 2 teams into the NCAA tournament, which will begin on Friday. Michigan Tech, they are the 4 seed in the East region, and they will play on Friday at 3 p.m. in Bridgeport, Connecticut, as they will face the number 1 seeded Notre Dame Fighting Irish, led by former Laker coach Jeff Jackson, who won the Big Ten title at home over, I believe, Ohio State. The other semifinal in the East sees number 2 seed Providence taking on the 3rd seed Clarkson. St. Cloud State, they are the top seed in the NCAA tournament and number 1 seed in the West. And they're going to take on the 4th seeded Air Force squad in Sioux Falls. That game will be, I believe, on Friday. The other WCHA team in the tournament, Minnesota State Mankato, they're the 2 seed. They'll take on Minnesota Duluth, who is the 3 seed in the West. Michigan, they're in the tournament again, and they'll be the 2 seed in the Northeast region at Worcester, Massachusetts. They'll take on the 3 seed Northeastern squad. Cornell, they're the number 1 seed in the Northeast. They'll take on the 4th seeded BU Terriers. And the final bracket in the Midwest is top seed Ohio State. The Buckeyes will take on the 4th seed Princeton squad, that one in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And number 2 Denver will take on the 3 seed Penn State Nittany Lions in the other semifinal. So if maybe your bracket is busted in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, print out a hockey bracket and see if you have better luck. I certainly can't have any worse luck than I've had on my basketball bracket, which we'll get to here in a moment. Laker men's and women's golf in action as they were in Lexington, Kentucky. Speaking of basketball, the Kentucky Wildcats in the Sweet 16 as the number 5 seed, which is the top seed in that region in the South. But the Laker men's and women's golf teams were in action this weekend in Lexington, Kentucky at the SVSU Invitational, as the Laker women finished the invite in 7th place out of 17 teams. The men's team finished 16th. Freshman Taylor Simoniu led the women with a team low. Round 80 in that one as Taylor Tarasco, Tatiana Hulen, and Naomi Katie shot 81, 83, and 84 respectively. Freshman Nick Osaroff posted the best round of the day for the men, shooting a 75. And Jason Kerr shot 76 and a team low 150 for the weekend. The Laker golf teams will return to action March 26th and 27th as they'll be in Kentucky for the Findlay Spring Invitational, like that one, named after my puppy. Congratulations to senior guard Kemji Williams for the Laker men's basketball team as he was named just today to the National Association of Basketball Coaches Division II All-District Team. The Pontiac, Michigan native represents the Midwest Region 2nd team along with Brent Bach from Bellarmine, Drew Christianberry from Ferris, Martise Kimbrough from Findlay, and Alex Stein. Williams averaged 18.5 points per game and almost 7 assists during his senior campaign as he leaves Lake State with being their all-time leader in assists with 726. And he is number 2 on the all-time scoring list with 2,110 career points. We'll talk more about Kemji Williams and Laker men's basketball with their head coach, Steve Hettinga, who is scheduled to join us here at 6:30. Well, how did your brackets end up? Boy, oh boy, was it a wild weekend in the NCAA basketball tournament or what? As, well, the local teams had mixed results. The Michigan State Spartans, well, they were downright brutal in their game yesterday at the Little Caesars Arena as the Spartans missed their last 14 shots on Sunday, losing to the 11th-seeded Syracuse Orangemen and not making the Sweet 16 for the 3rd straight year as they lost by the score of 55-53. So Syracuse, they advanced to the Midwest Region semifinals against Duke. Miles Bridges for the Michigan State Spartans, well, he struggled, as did the entire Spartan team, as he scored only 11 points in his final collegiate game of his career, likely. It's pretty much a wild weekend overall in the tourney. Number 1 Kansas and number 5 Clemson. They're the other teams advancing to the Midwest Region Sweet 16.
Get wicked at the Wicked Sister. You'll find the best tasting food for the whole family. Start off with some appetizers like the crab dip, served with warm naan bread strips and soft pretzel bites, or their antibiotic and hormone-free boneless chicken wings with 5 choices of sauces. Entrees include the barbecue pulled pork sandwich, the number 1 selling drunken cow burger, or Philly cheesesteaks, and they're on special all day Thursdays. The Wicked Sister also offers a gluten-free menu and catering. Bring the whole family. The Wicked Sister, downtown Ashman Street, open 7 days a week.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason broadcasting from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street this last evening of winter. Spring will be here tomorrow. And at the Wicked Sister coming up on Thursday, the LSSU Engineering Club's fundraiser. From 4 to 10 p.m., 15% of all food sales will be donated to the LSSU Club for their end-of-year banquet. So come on down and eat and support a very talented group of young adults. And speaking of a very talented group of young adults, the head coach of a very talented group of young adults, Steve Hettinga, joining us here at the Wicked Sister, Laker men's basketball coach after a very successful season. Coach, thanks for coming in here on the off season.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, Coach, before we get to some of the ins and outs that is going on with your program, let's review a very successful season that your team had. The Lakers win 25 games. You finish second in the GLIAC. You finish second in the GLIAC tournament. You make the NCAA tournament. You defeat Hillsdale. And then you fall to a very talented Ferris State squad who's still going in the NCAA Division II Elite Eight. But just kind of recap the season in general. You had to be pretty happy with how things went.
Yeah, we kind of talk about that a lot as a group, why the season's happening, to kind of stay in the moment and, certainly enough time for reflection once it's all over. And, when our season finally ended, it was one of those deals that it was a hard thing. It was a sad thing because that was a great group. To win 25 games, as you had mentioned, is not an easy thing to do. No. And we've had, that's our third season of doing that in the last 5 years. But it it is not easy, and a lot of work goes into that. You certainly give the players the bulk of the credit, but I certainly thankful for my staff and all the work they put in, and trainers and everybody. It takes a program to be successful, and all everything firing at the right moment for us, and timing's certainly good. And we were very fortunate through the year to be injury free. We ended up losing Rothstein the last 7-8 games, but other than that, we were pretty injury free, and everybody seemed to have the flu bug. Our guys were pretty healthy throughout the year.
Yeah.
So all those things kind of go in line for you to have a great season. And then with that, you got to have great seniors, and obviously we had that. We had 4 really special guys that led us on and off the floor, and certainly with the Kemji and Nicholson and Josh Goldschmidt and Lance Monroe, guys that just did it the right way, and our young players learned from them. I'm very happy, obviously, with the results from our season, but very encouraged for looking forward, and we can certainly talk about that as well today. But our young players that got experience got a chance to really see how it was done and how it's done the right way, and I think that's really going to pay dividends down the road.
Well, you mentioned 2 things in that answer, Steve. Program and done the right way. I mean, this is your 11th season. You just completed your 11th season. Your career record's 203 and 120. And, you didn't exactly come into a situation that was, the best as far as the program, and you have created a winning program. And I guess the question I have for you is, what's been the key to the success of this program? Entering your 12th season coming in, I mean, is there one thing, or is it several things that has been the key to really making this program one of the top ones in the GLIAC, one of the top ones in Division II?
Well, I think we've been very fortunate with getting good players. I mean, that's the key to winning is, obviously you have to have good players that can play, but maybe the biggest key for us has been our culture and our guys that have bought in to how we have to play and how we have to win. And it's a tough thing to tell an 18 to 22-year-old, hey, guys, we're not as talented as a team in the other locker room. So we really need to be efficient in these 3 or 4 areas tonight to be successful, because if it just ends up being an up-and-down running game, we're going to lose. They're a little taller than us, a little bit more athletic. They move a little bit faster. So here's how we have to play to win. And, we really hammer our guys in the preseason. A lot of them, you'll hear them talk, especially the seniors. If you kind of follow Facebook, they're like, I'll miss everything except for those conditions.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we really make it hard on our guys. We want to be the toughest. Our motto is to be the toughest, hard-nosed, most disliked team in the GLIAC. That's kind of our thing. We want to be a hard-nosed group of guys, and certainly that's not for everybody. So I think, the key has been recruiting, and then with that, recruit the players that can buy into our culture, and then certainly add to it. And, we kind of have a motto that, we don't become you, you become us. So they have to have buy-in. Without that buy-in, anything I say or any other staff member we have is just going to fly through the wayside and certainly not be as effective or maximize our potential as the way maybe we could. And, we talked about it. I mean, we certainly, coming in, we were 0-7 my first 7 games coaching. Sure. I'm like, what did I get myself into? And then we were lucky enough. We had a really good group that I inherited. Coach Fitzner was the coach before, and he left the cupboard full. And,
sure.
Ryan Kuhl and Tim Bonat, who's in it, to name a couple old guys from the past, and got on a little bit of a roll. And then certainly winning breeds winning, and guys wanted to, recruiting became easier because we had success. And, it has kind of been, steamrolled a little bit, and we've had good success. And certainly want to have great success moving forward and even surpass some of the things we've done.
And one of the things that's impressive to me, and I want to share a quote from one of our listeners, Don Supa, who takes his daughter to the games. He says anytime that he passes you, one of the players, you're always very friendly. I like what he said here when I said I was interviewing tonight. He says, your players conduct themselves with class. They're visible in the community, and they can play some really good basketball. That's the way to run a program. I told him I was going to use that quote, and I think that speaks for you and your players. You are visible in the community, and you conduct yourselves on and off the court with a lot of class.
Yeah, and I loved how the basketball part was the last thing he said. The other things were more important,
exactly.
And they certainly are with our guys, and that's great to hear, so I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. Let's look ahead, Steve. What are some of the things that you do now between now and next season? Obviously, recruiting. Can you tell us anything about some of the new players possibly coming in, and what is kind of your schedule over the next couple months?
Well, certainly this week is a busy week for me. I leave tomorrow to go recruiting for high school quarterfinals and semifinals, and finals are all this week, so I'll be on a 5-day road trip recruiting. Then after that, things kind of die down a little bit. There'll be a lot of, get-togethers, and there'll be top 25 events, and a lot of just, try out different events where a lot of coaches and people are at those events, and kids kind of last-second tryouts. But those kids, you might find 1 out of 100 at those events that can really help you. So our recruiting is kind of where it's at. We signed Justin Fisher from Warren De La Salle, a point guard that we really like. Excited to have him into our program. We got a verbal from another guy that I can't say his name yet. But we have also had 3 really good walk-ons that have committed that are going to be, great program guys as well. But certainly looking for to make that announcement on the kid that's verbal next week, and that the signing period April 9th. We're on 3 or 4 different bigs that we really got to have one of them. I would love to have 2 of them. So our recruiting has gone really well. We put ourselves in a good position. So now we just need them to say yes. So we're on our knee. We got the ring out.
You got the ring, kiss the ring.
It's
a
fake
bit.
ring, guys.
Right,
fake
right.
ring. So we're waiting for somebody to commit of size that can help us. We like our guys coming back. Certainly Jackson Schrademeyer and Keemon Treese Collins and Raj Stein moving forward. For us, we like our bigs coming back, but we certainly need some more depth at that position. So recruiting is the main thing right now, getting people on campus. You certainly want to finish strong academic with our guys that we have. We do start postseason. The NCAA allows us to have the similar thing we have in the spring, so we can have 8 hours a week with them on the, working out, whatnot. Only 2 of those hours on the floor. So we'll use those kind of as a team practice for a half hour, and then a lot of individual skill improvement. So that's really important for us to make the guys that we do have, get them at the max level leading into the summer. And then certainly the culmination for me is graduation, so I'm looking forward to that in the first Saturday in May. Sending off our seniors the right way. And I will throw a plug in there for our banquet. It's going to be April 7th. Anybody that's able to make it on that Saturday, it's going to be a 2 o'clock banquet at the Sisler Center. So we'd love to have a lot of people come out and celebrate our seniors at the banquet.
Absolutely. Coach Steve Hettinga from the Laker men's basketball team joining us on the game. Coach, a couple more questions here before we let you go. New assistant coaches this year, Rodney Clark and Ted Stowe. We had both of them on the game. Very good interviews. How did that go with them, and how was their progression during the season?
It was great. I think there was some definitely some hang-ups early, but we didn't know each other. They didn't kind of understand how I wanted things run. I didn't do a really good job of making sure they knew exactly how I wanted it run. But once we kind of got things going, they're great. They're hard workers, great people. I couldn't be happier with them. Look forward to working with them, obviously, moving forward.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, there is one team still alive in the Division II quarterfinals as Ferris State. They're going to take on Barry.
Barry, yep.
Coach in the area. Barry, they're going on tomorrow night. I mean, you faced them 4 times. You're the only team to beat them. They're going to be a tough out there, a very good team. Michigan State saw that early on where they only beat them by 8. Ferris State, you got to be rooting for them, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're legit, and certainly, at this point, you're better because you lost to them, but they're the team that's in your conference. You want to pull for them, and they represent us well. And as you mentioned earlier, too, off air, is like that's a feather in our cap if they go on and win the whole thing, and that we beat them. And certainly, we're in our games with them at the end of the season, conference championship tournament, and obviously our regular season game there, we're down 18.5 and came back and cut it to 2. Both games were down, less than a possession game in the last 3 or 4 minutes. So, they're a very good team, and we certainly have a lot of respect for their players and their staff, and it was a mutual respect after that game that they beat us at. in the national tournament, and they played a phenomenal game to kind of oust us. We certainly didn't go out the wrong way against a team that we thought we should have beaten 100 out of 100 whatnot. It was certainly not an upset to lose to Ferris, the number 1 seed on their home floor to end our season. So kudos to them, and certainly wish them well moving forward. And as we talked about, they have a really good shot.
Yeah, they
so
really do.
If they play well, I mean, they'll be favored in every game they play. But they got to play well. This is the best of the best. The Elite Eight for a reason. So they'll have to play well. But if they do, they stand a good chance.
And, Coach, final question here. Undefeated home season. I don't know if that's ever happened in Laker basketball, but that's something that doesn't happen much in basketball. You had to be pretty happy about that.
Really happy. And I think we were undefeated in the whites. So we had like 4 other non-conference neutral games. So those uniforms, hopefully we can just wear those on the road, ask teams that we can play in our whites. But
say you forgot the other one.
Certainly in the Bud Cooper, though, I've never had a season where I was undefeated at home for the entire season. So I was 13-0, and our guys talked about that after the first game. I remember Kemji and some of the guys, when we brought it in the middle, they're like, guys, we ain't losing at home. And to their credit, they stuck to that and all the way through, and didn't have a lot of games. If you look at our games, the Ferris game was a 6-point game, but we didn't have a lot of close games at home. We really came out and played well, and our guys, our shooters come out and love our gym, and our guys were very impressive at home.
Coach Steve Hettinga joining us on the game. Coach, best of luck during the off season. We'll definitely want to get you back here as we get closer to Laker basketball, or anytime you have something, just get a hold of us. We'd love to have you on and talk Laker hoops.
Appreciate it very much, and thanks so much for having me.
And thank you. We'll be back with Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports coming up next on the game here on Eagle 95.1. Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason broadcasting from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street on this Monday night, March 19th. Our broadcast engineer, Katie Woolen, and lots going on at the Wicked Sister. We mentioned Thursday night here at the Wicked Sister, 4 to 10 p.m. LSSU Engineering Club's fundraiser is 15% of all food sales donated to LSSU clubs for their end-of-the-year banquet. Come on, eat and support a very talented group of young adults. And happening on Thursday, April 5th, Founders Brewery Company is having a tap takeover featuring the Wicked Sisters' first ever vertical flight. They will have 2018 KBS and 2017 KBS, as well as 6 other Founders beers. Joe from the brewery will be at the Wicked Sister in the evening. Want to thank head coach Steve Hettinga from the Laker men's basketball team. Always a good guest, and want to welcome our next guest. His name is Butch Davis from the Telegram News and the radio show Butch on Sports, which you can find on our podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com, as Butch joins us each and every week to examine the Metro Detroit sports scene. Butch, how you doing on this Monday night, my friend?
Exhausted from basketball this weekend here. How yourself there?
Same here, Butch, as the quarterfinals in boys basketball will be happening tomorrow night across the state of Michigan. We talked to Coach Hettinga from the Laker men's team. He's going to be down at your neck of the woods, Butch, to see Warren De La Salle, one of the Laker recruits coming up here. What is your coverage as far as teams that are still alive in boys basketball? I know River Rouge is still alive in Class B. Give us an update on the Metro Detroit sports scene as far as high school basketball.
Well, I will be looking at the Warren De La Salle Detroit Jesuit game tomorrow. That'll probably start off a little earlier than the rest of the game at 7 o'clock there. The big game, of course, will be in Class B around in this neck of the woods here, where we look at River Rouge. And also, when we see Class A, Bellevue and Novi will stomp out tomorrow night as well. So those are 2-3 good teams in our area that we'll be dealing with in Class A. Now, River Rouge and Dearborn Divine Child will get it on. And we'll speak about a little bit more of that in a minute there. Some Class C with Detroit Edison, they'll be battling tomorrow night for supremacy of going to East Lansing there to continue their battles. They'll play Unionville Seabloing. Okay, and that's about it for this side of the neck of the woods of teams in the metropolitan area taking part in the state championships there.
Yeah, we talked about what's going on here locally, Butch, at Cedarville, the only EUP team still alive. They'll be in action in their Class D quarterfinal. That'll happen tomorrow night in Escanaba against undefeated Dollar Bay. Butch, let's move on to the NCAA basketball tournament. Now, you and I had a show last week where we talked a little bit about the brackets and such, and I guess the first question is, how's your bracket doing, Butch?
I got 66% of the answers right, still in the picking there. Okay, and for that we got at least of those particular teams after the 64, and then the and then the other teams getting snobbed or whatever it may be. I say right now 10 of the teams are still alive that I have in the bracket there. So I was shocked. I did pick Michigan to win out. They're still around. Some other teams, I'll grab my little sheet here, a cheat sheet.
Threw mine in the garbage.
Yeah, well, you picked Michigan State, some other doggone teams there. You got shocked here. No, not one. I picked UMBC, okay? And I won. Okay? I did not believe it here, I always thought that Virginia was very much so overrated, okay? And for that, I say some type of little hoopla should be going on there. Chicago Loyola is scaring the crap out of me here. That's
good
another
team right there.
Oh, yeah. And, this is what it's all about. And we talked about it last week with the picks and all, and how some teams are very much so snubbed out of this particular dealing of championship supremacy there. Again, this thing called the pick show and all this other stuff that is network based, it's got to be something done about it. There's some good teams out there still participating, by the way, in the NIT are still going on there and should have been in those round 64 or 68 if you want to pick a chick of some of the teams that go on Tuesday. This is something that I'm very excited about. But again, I would love to see many other teams who got snubbed in this doggone ball of wax and such. I would wonder what St. Mary's would do in this particular hosing of teams and whatnot there, because there may have been a possibility that Michigan would have to play them. And we don't know. We'll never know that. But again, this has been pretty exciting weekend with these last-minute or last-second shots. Plenty of that, plenty of hoopla to go around for everybody there. Only thing we can do is stick and stay and watch the rest of the components of the championship rounds there.
Yeah, we're going to talk more in depth about the NCAA tournament in hour 2, which you can find online at thegamesportshow.podbean.com. But real quick, Butch, Michigan and Michigan State, you mentioned Michigan. They had that last-second victory, a team that just seems to be getting better. They advanced to the Sweet 16. And then you watch that Michigan State game yesterday. I watched the whole thing. And, I question how prepared they were for that game. And one of our listeners there was texting me about Tom Izzo, and it just seems like maybe has his time passed as far as coaching strategy? I mean, it just looked like Michigan State was lost for a good part of that game. Granted, they shot 26%, but Michigan State, obviously a very disappointing end to their season.
Well, here's the deal, okay? And this is what I watched in person when I watched the game yesterday from Little Caesars there. The average size of Syracuse was 6'9", okay? We're talking about including the guards and whatever it may be. And they specifically play a 3-2 zone that scares the crap out of anybody because of the length and size of their players. Now, the only way you can suppress a zone is making your shots. Michigan State did a very poor job of making those shots. They were very, very in tune of always shooting those three-pointers instead of trying to work a way into maybe the paint or try to, to press that three-pointer to maybe just a two-pointer and get the points that way. They didn't do that there, and they continually do it throughout the game. 37 three-point shots going up in the air You either got to be a very confident team that you're going to make a majority of them, or again, right now the coaching staff had to maybe suppress that and try to find another way of doing business. You got to give Syracuse the credit. They deserve that. They played that zone beautifully. Although, again, Michigan State led rebounds, 26 more rebounds when we officially look at the standings and whatever it may be after the game, 26 more rebounds than Syracuse. They were getting rebounds, but they were always, again, suppressing for that three-point shot. And you can't do it there. They had pretty good big men there that they can somewhat muscle some ways in, and they didn't do it. They played very finesseful, and yes, that might be the chunk of the coach there. But again, Michigan State was not very ready, and I will agree with you there when it came down to maybe looking at some films and seeing all that Syracuse can do. This is a man who's been running this 3-2 or 2-3 zone for years. And why they did not get it, I will have no idea.
Butch Davis joining us on the game for the first hour, about 9 more minutes of the first hour. Butch, from suppressing to depressing, let's transition to the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Pistons. Thankfully, they're both on the West Coast, and, well, since our last broadcast, they haven't won a game. The Wings have lost 10 straight. The Pistons have lost I don't know how many straight. The Pistons will be on the road tonight at Sacramento later tonight. The Wings will be at home against Philadelphia tomorrow night. Playing for draft position, Bush, I don't think there's anything more you can say about those two teams.
No, it's really not that. This is pitiful. And again, the Red Wings would get a pass from me because we knew what was going on with the Red Wings and how they were trying to build up their roster and whatnot there. We knew eventually certain people were going to get traded and left off the roster or improve the roster. The Red Wings did that by getting some significant draft choices. Let's give Peter Mazerik some credit here now. The Red Wings are looking good because every time he wins a game or the Flyers get higher in the ratings there, the Red Wings draft choices get bigger and bigger here, okay?
You're right.
So, and they get many more. So I tell you right now, that is something to be, to shake your teeth at there. Can't wait till the draft comes. However, in this particular case with the Pistons per se, this is pitiful, okay? And I do expect, hopefully, that the boss of this particular unit there, which is Tom Gores, really do some soul searching on how he's going about picking people to run this organization. I said it again on my podcast. I will say it again on your show. You need a Detroit flavor in there and some Detroit tradition. And this team has failed in doing that, getting people from the area of Detroit or play for the Pistons to have some input in what's going on. I say it once. I have said it on many times on your show. It is a shame that people like Bill Laimbeer, who's out there, who's been a winner in this time of doing any kind of coaching. I don't care if he coached the Tiddlywink team. He's a winner, okay? Isaiah Thomas, who's out there, who could be a consultant in some way, shape, form, or fact for this team. Jerry Stackhouse, okay, who's right now coaching and doing a magnificent job in the G League and whatnot. Why can't you find someone with a Piston connection to know the aura of our particular team, what our fans look for, and to get some right? Right now, Stan Van Gundy has no influence at all on his players playing a good, hard, solid game, and that is a shame. That is a shame to the fans who pay significant amount of money, $40 in parking, and all the other good stuff. This is not Joe Louis Arena. This is not the Palace of Auburn Hills anymore. This is the new Little Caesars Arena where everything's expensive, and they're just mowing that team down, and it's pitiful. It is very pitiful indeed.
Butch, the Detroit Lions made some news this week, or last week I should say, as they found a running back in LeGarrette Blount from the Philadelphia Eagles. The team signed Blount to a up to $2.5 million contract with incentives. Blount, 31, spent last season with Philadelphia, rushed for 766 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's won a lot of Super Bowls as of late. He's won 3 times in 4 years, twice with the Patriots and then last year with the Eagles. Upgrading their running game, in your opinion, Butch?
lot of upgrading in that particular one. And also they re-signed Zach Zenner
right.
to the fold there. This is a guy who I've been talking about again on your show and many other on my podcast, that this man has not been given an equal opportunity to shine as a running back for the Detroit Lions. I've always said in each of the 4 years, and this is going on his fourth year he's with the team, that during the camp and also during the preseason, this man has showed me that he can run a football. He's not fancy indeed, but he's tough. He's rugged. He gets yards where basically you need him, and that's right up the middle. And they're not giving this guy no chance at all. Hopefully that right now the new regime of the Detroit Lions coaching staff will give him the opportunity that is needed, that will get them some good hard yardage. They need some good running going on with the Lions if that offense is going to be very effective. Okay, they have the receivers to do the job. Now they got to get something to complement it, because it's all going to be all good for Matthew Stafford and keep him off the ground. Okay, because for someone who's making the significant amount of money that he's making, he's spending more time on the ground than he is above ground here, and that's not good when you call this man your franchise player, or in this case, the most highest paying player in the NFL, and he's picking himself off the ground there. That he can't do that too many times more often.
Butch, we got about a minute left. The Tigers will open up their regular season a week from Thursday at home against Pittsburgh. I know you're going to be there. Jordan Zimmerman named the starting pitcher for that one. Anything to update our listeners on the Tigers in about a minute?
Well, about a minute there. We're talking about Zimmerman, Francisco Liriano, Mike Fears, Matt Boyd, Michael Fulmer looked pretty doggone good today in his pitching prowess there. We got Mickey Mantoon, Martin, and also Kelly Lanos in the outfield. And, of course, the infield, you can pick it or choose it, whatever you may be. You know Dixon Mercado is going to get a full-time role at second base. Julio Iglesias is going to play at shortstop. Jeremy Calilano at third base. And, of course, you know Miggy is going to be playing first base. You know Victor Martinez is going to hub the designated hitter role. So right now, that's all set on up there, okay? We want to see some of these kids get involved, like, for instance, John Hicks. We know that McCann is going to be doing some heck of a lot of catching, but I do believe that John Hicks is going to be the catcher who's going to stay here and help out. Also, Jeremy Saliamaka is back with the Tigers. He signed a minor league contract, but don't be surprised that somewhere down the line he don't get called up and give the Tigers some and some experience to these two catchers that they have right now.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Again, you can find his show, Butch on Sports, on his podcast page, Simply Butch2. That's TOO.podomatic.com. He also writes for the Telegram News, and you can find his show on the podcast page of this show, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Butch is going to hang around for hour 2. Butch, thanks for joining us for hour 1. We'll talk to you in just a few minutes here on the game.
I'll be willing and ready.
We are happy to have you, and thank you, sir. And that's going to do it for hour 1 of the game here on Eagle 95.1 from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street. Want to thank our guests, Butch Davis and Steve Hettinga, coach of the Laker men's basketball team, and our broadcast engineer, Katie Woolen, back in the Eagle 95.1 studios. Now, again, next week, if the Sioux Eagles do not have a Game 6 against the Sioux Thunderbirds, we will have the show next Monday from the Wicked Sister at 6. If there is a Game 6, then Butch and I are going to have an online show, probably Tuesday night, on the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. That's going to do it for hour 1. You're listening to The Game here on Eagle 95.1.
The Wicked Sister, Sioux, Michigan. Check TripAdvisor. Ranked right towards the top. Awarded the Certificate of Excellence, as well as voted #1 pub in the UP. The Wicked Sister has managed to create a casual menu that offers unique, creative, and sometimes healthy offerings that rivals menu selections of any big city. Burgers and starters, snacks and shareables, soups and salads, sandwiches and tapas. On Ashman Street, Sioux, Michigan. Welcome to the Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
Thank you for tuning in to The Game, heard Monday nights from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street on Eagle 95.1, also online at radioeaglesioux.com and the podcast page, thegamesportshow.com. sportshow.podbean.com. I hope you're enjoying the broadcast. Now, if you want to hear more of the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national talk show, I encourage you to visit our website at thegamesportshow.com, and you can tune into a pair of broadcasts of the Game Sports Show from Sioux, Ontario. Our co-host here on the game, Mr. Electric Avenue Dave McKegg, broadcasts the show on Wednesday night from Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sioux, Ontario, along with his regular contributors, Jamie Antonello, Justin Heichel, and Dane Hantro. They focus on football with their In the Pocket segment, talking about the NFL, along with basketball and the NBA, and other sports, including tennis, golf, soccer, and the WWE. If you like hockey, Thursday nights are for you, as the Game Sports Show is broadcasting from Boston Pizza in Sioux, Ontario, with Dave McKegg, along with his regular contributors, Justin Heichel and Dane Hantro. Now, this show focuses on hockey in the wintertime and baseball in the summer, and will include guests and interviews from local and national figures. Once again, you can hear 3 versions of the game at our website, thegamesportshow.com, or at the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Also on the podcast page, you will find selected audio broadcasts of Sioux Eagles home games, Brimley Bay's basketball, and Sioux High Blue Devil hockey, along with game contributor Butch Davis and his broadcasts of Butch on Sports. You can also find us on YouTube. Look for the Scott Nason channel. Thank you for listening, and keep it locked here to the game for all your local, regional, and national sports talk that you just can't get enough of.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pay. And who's gonna make it?
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1. Scott Nason broadcasting from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street, downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, on this Monday, March 19th, 2018, the day before spring. Yes, spring is actually going to be here, although if you're here in Sioux, Michigan, you look outside, maybe you wouldn't think it will be, but it will be. And lots going on here at the Wicked Sister. Again, on Thursday, they're having a fundraiser for the LSSU Engineering Club. From 4 to 10 p.m. on Thursday, 15% of all food sales donated. They'll donate, rather, to the LSSU Club for their end-of-the-year banquet, so come on down to the Wicked Sister and support a very talented group of young adults. We are once again joined by Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports, and we are now joined by our good friend E.J. Russell, joining us on the Team Wireless seat from Parts Unknown. E.J., it's been a few weeks, but thanks for joining us, and welcome back to the game.
I feel like I'm back hanging out with my family, so this is good. Well, I feel welcome again, like I'm part of the clan, but good to be here. Happy to talk some sports finally.
Easy on that clan talk there, sir. Butch, have we missed EJ, yes or no?
Whoa.
Butch, have we missed EJ, yes or no?
Yeah. Be careful on the clan talk here, man.
Yeah, thanks,
I know he was using it in a friendly way, right, EJ? I had to go there.
You guys are just trying to set me up here. Maybe I don't feel so welcome now. Thanks a lot, guys.
Oh, boy.
Now, let's get back to sports. EJ, this is the portion of the show, our round table, where we banter about some topics in the world of sports. We're each going to get at least one, maybe two. So, EJ, on the Team Wireless hot seat from Parts Unknown, what would you like to bring up to tonight's round table? Butch, I'll give you first crack at the subject.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into some of the other stuff that I want to talk about, but the main thing I want to talk about, because we've missed a couple of weeks here, are all the moves in the NFL. Jets trading up to get the third pick, Browns making some moves, a lot of different free agency moves. Just want to see what you guys have as the state of the NFL. How are your teams doing? What do you guys think?
Butch, we've talked about the Lions over the last couple weeks. Just overall, though, it's been a busy offseason in the NFL, hasn't it?
Very kooky. I'll put it that way. A kooky type of a free agency there, where everyone seemed to be going and snatch grabbing and, I don't know, refusing there. They're making some of the free agents kind of keep their fingers in their nose or something here without giving them toilet paper or something to kind of suppress it here. However, it's been very busy with a whole heck of a lot of teams out there. Los Angeles, one of those particular teams that has been very, very busy. New England has also been a wee bit busy. I could go down the list. The Kansas City Chiefs. They're very busy because they're going to be using a new quarterback this year. Well, not so much new, but he got a year with belly aches and watching the game. And that's Mahorn there, who basically many people think that this is the second coming of I don't know what here because he's that good as far as his accuracy and his strength on throwing. And they're trying to get receivers to complement him as well. Every team seems to be kind of packed, and when it comes down to getting necessities there. Now, for some other players who are not going to get the consideration that they shouldn't get, is Ndamukong Suh is one of those particular players. Word saying that he was going out to Los Angeles there to have some talk with that particular team. I'm quite sure many more will be talking to him until he lowers his price down here, because whatever he's asking for, he's not going to get until he kind of proves himself worthy and be on a team that is somewhat hospitable in him getting the job done and basically not messing up the team culture at that best. Okay, I'm very, very excited about what the NFL is doing as far as the distribution of players this year.
Yeah, Butch, looking at some of the free agent moves, and I'll tell you, a team to watch out for, in my opinion, is San Francisco. We saw what they did with Garoppolo coming over and his success, but they've been very busy as far as the free agents. They've signed a couple high-end guys, Jerick McKinnon and Weston Richburg, to contracts. McKinnon, obviously not cheap. They had to dole out some money, but this is a team that I would definitely watch out for as a team in the West Division that seems to be getting better. I mean, you saw the success the Rams had. Seattle's still in there. So the NFC West is going to be very interesting to watch as far as teams there. You mentioned the Los Angeles Rams. They've definitely made a lot of moves. They're definitely not sitting back and just letting their success of last season do that. One of the moves that I thought was a little strange was Sammy Watkins to the Chiefs. Not as much as them picking him up, but 3 years, $48 million. I mean, you don't see a lot of contracts in free agency based on potential ahead of production. Ask Alshon Jeffrey on that one. So maybe Andy Reid sees something with Sammy Watkins. Obviously, the moves that have made the big news has been Kirk Cousins going to Minnesota, Case Keenum going to Denver. So it's been a pretty busy free agent market. I think the Lions have done well getting Blunt, as Butch and I talked about in the first hour. I mean, obviously there is a huge need, and the Lions aren't going to be in a position to draft a high-end running back during the NFL draft coming up next month. They've improved their linebacking core, so it's very interesting as far as the NFL. Lots of teams making moves. EJ, I know that your Cleveland Browns have made a lot of noise, so I would love to hear what you have to say about them and, your topic in general.
Well, I appreciate neither of you two taking my thunder with the Cleveland Browns news here. But I think you guys really nailed it on the head there. I think San Francisco's really done a nice job of adding some talent and supporting staff for Jimmy G there. They paid what I'll call the handsome tax for Jimmy G, and they paid him quite heavily. But signing Jerick McKinnon was really big for them. They've done a nice job adding talent there. But I think really, and yes, I have a biased opinion here, excuse me, but the Cleveland Browns, I think, so far have been the winners in this offseason up to this exact point. Very unfortunate losing Joe Thomas to retirement. Cleveland's announced that July 7th, 7-3 will be Joe Thomas Day in Cleveland, and I really appreciate the fact that they're honoring the legacy that he's left with our team. He very much is one of us, and he'll be missed. But signing guys like Carlos Hyde, drafting Tyrod Taylor, picking up Demarius Randall from Green Bay, the Browns are making a lot of moves in positive direction. Tyrod Taylor is not our quarterback of the future, and people that saw that trade may think that the Browns are trading for a quarterback now. No, Tyrod Taylor is our bridge. And the Browns are in a very difficult position right now. They've made all the right moves. They have a lot of picks still left that they can move around. Traded with the Seahawks for some picks today. But they're in a tough spot, and they want Saquon Barkley, and I think that they want Josh Allen. And the problem with that is that if the Browns draft a quarterback number 1, the Giants are in what I would consider the premier position in this draft, because the Browns are going to address whatever they think is most important with the number 1 overall pick. But the Giants, I think, have the best pick, and here's why. They still have Eli Manning. They do not need to take a quarterback number 2 overall. I think that they want Rosen or Darnold. I think Darnold would be the best pick for them. A little bit unconventional delivery, drops the ball a little bit down, too far down low, and he brings it up more like Tim Tebow. A lot of people criticized him on his delivery early in his career. But Darnold drops the ball a little bit too low. I think he would be a good fit for them if they can get that fixed up real quick, because he's coming from a big market in that USC team. Going to New York, I think that would be an easy transition for him. But if they don't like, or if the Browns take their quarterback at number 1, the Giants are in a great position to take Saquon Barkley, because they can take Barkley with that number 2 overall pick, pair him up with that great young receiver that they have, Odell Beckham Jr., and draft a quarterback next year. Giants are in a great position. I wasn't surprised to see the Jets trade up. However, I thought the Buffalo Bills would be offering a little bit better. I think they wanted to go after Josh Allen, and I think that they missed that trade there. But the Browns can do a lot of things here. I would like to see them take Saquon Barkley number 1 overall. I don't think that that's going to happen. But they can find another quarterback with great value at that 4th pick. A guy like Baker Mayfield, who started his career at Texas Tech under scholarship, transferred to Oklahoma, walked on, a guy that's played with a chip on his shoulder his entire career, won the Heisman again, got that scholarship, but started as a walk-on at Oklahoma. If you take Baker Mayfield, number 4 overall, behind 2 other quarterbacks, you're going to allow him to play with that chip on his shoulder. I don't think that that's a bad move for the Cleveland Browns. I think those first 4 picks, really, for a lot of people, it's very, very interesting. I think the Browns so far have won free agency and this trade pre-draft game, I'll say. But very excited to see what's going on in the NFL. I like the Kirk Cousins move to the Vikings. I think that that'll be very, very good for him. Surprised to see that Case Keenum got the deal that he did in Denver. But a lot of exciting moves going on. Excited to see how the draft plays out. But no matter what happens, and I will say this before I get into the next thing, I think the LeGarrette Blount signing for the Detroit Lions was perfect. This is a guy that's won multiple championships. He addresses your running needs, allows you to use Amir Abdullah in a lot of different ways that you want to use him, specifically in the passing game, gives you that heavy runner that you can put on the 1-yard line that you can count on to pound in the ball. But outside of that, I'm really excited to see how this draft plays out. And the NFL is hot in our minds right now, and it's a very exciting time. I couldn't be happier.
Great topic, EJ. Let's keep the ball rolling. We'll go to Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports if he has any final thoughts on EJ's topic and then his own topic. So, Butch, what would you like to bring up to tonight's roundtable, sir?
Thought that we mentioned a whole heck of a lot of teams in general there. We barely mentioned the Buffalo Bills and the Jets there. I think they did a whole heck of a lot to kind of complete their dealings there. All the Minnesota quarterbacks are gone from last year and have reached greener pastures elsewhere. One of the quarterbacks has gone to the Buffalo Bills now, who's been injured for a year, and we all know who he is there. That's going to be a huge improvement. Tyrod Taylor is another one who basically has moved on to greener pastures there and going to find his dealing somewhere in the NFL. Which team he went to, I forget because there's so much going on there. But this is going to be a very creepy type of season, I think for the NFL in general there. I can't wait for the draft, because that's going to tell everything on how these teams kind of construct their teams and making them better. And again, Cleveland is one of the teams that's expected to get better because they have so many first-round draft picks there.
Well, it can't get worse.
Well, it cannot get worse, indeed. We said that last year, but of course they didn't win a game. But in the meanwhile, here back in the
Thank you so much for reminding me of that.
and you're welcome. You're thoroughly welcome on that one. Because I told
So polite today. I love it.
I told you about that Tyrod Taylor situation there. And although I think he was the best pick in town there, the support that Cleveland gave him was little to none at all there. And I'm glad that Cleveland has went on out there and did some things. And I'm glad that the coach of the Cleveland Browns this year has some autonomy of getting with the general manager per se and getting the players that he wants. I think that is a huge key with the Cleveland Browns this year there.
Butch, let's continue with you. What would you like to bring up as the next topic to our roundtable? Great stuff.
Oh, boy. There's a lot of crap going on here. But one of the crappy things that I've noticed all last week and, especially this weekend is officiating here, okay? Especially in basketball. We're talking about I've seen some high school games that were not too neat and pretty. I've seen some college games that some officiating, they just let it go and let them run the floor, and that's cool in certain ways. But when there's definite fouls in the game, you got to call them, and they weren't. In the professional rank, with Alvin Gentry and also Stan Van Gundy getting good sizable fines and whatnot there. I watched Green last night, although that was a legit call that the officials made on that particular one. I also watched the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks play a hockey game last night where a goal should have been. Instead, the people got scared wherever they was viewing that doggone thing in Toronto and blew that call significantly here. That was definitely a goal by some millimeters here, okay? And they took it away from some poor St. Louis Blues, who eventually end up scoring again. Now, we can say a whole heck of a lot there about the officials and the responsibility they have there, which is a whole heck of a lot. But again, are they using the instant replay properly the way it should be? In as many occasions, they're using instant replay where they're standing out there 4 or 5 minutes and seem to still be in confusion.
Butch, I'll take the first shot at this as somebody that is an official coming up here very soon in a few weeks for high school baseball and softball. I'm a little partial to officials, so I'll probably be the good cop when it comes to the officials, and EJ will probably be the bad cop. But we'll just have to see. But boy, I go back to what you said about at the high school level, at the college level, at the pro level. We had a game here on Eagle 95.1 Wednesday, our regional final between Brimley and Cedarville. And I am not openly critical on officials when I do a broadcast normally, but boy, this game was not very well officiated. Now, it didn't have any bearing as far as the teams that won or lost. I mean, it wasn't the referee's fault that Brimley lost or the referee's fault that Brimley won, but there were some very inconsistent calls in that game. It got to a point where it seemed like they called a lot of fouls on one team, and then, of course, the referees want to try to make things up. It's much like being behind the plate sometimes, and if a bunch of calls are close that are going against one team, it's kind of human nature sometimes to give the other team the benefit of the doubt, but it was a game that was not very well officiated. It was a physical game. There were a couple technical fouls that weren't called. There was a double foul that was called, which I still trying to figure out. So we've seen it at the local levels. It is very hard to officiate these games. The fans are right on you. It was a packed house, and I give credit to anybody that goes out there that puts on the stripes and puts the whistle in his or her mouth and goes out there and does it. That being said, they are human, but they are also subject to critique. And again, that was a match that I didn't think was very well officiated by those gentlemen. No offense to them, but it could have been officiated a better way. Now, getting to what you mentioned, Butch, watching a lot of college basketball games. That'll be my topic coming up, the NCAA basketball tournament. And these instant replays, and as far as if they are being used correctly, you got to make a call I don't know if there should be a time clock on some of these decisions, but boy, so many of these games, in the last 2 minutes, it seems like these referees are looking 3-4 minutes at the same thing, and then it doesn't look like they even get the call right then. I think first and foremost, there should maybe be a certain amount of time that these officials can look at something. I mean, if you've seen it 10, 12 times, you know, what are you going to see after time number 13? So that would be the one thing I think, as far as if you could put a time limit on it, because it's just slowing down the game and momentum. I understand the three-point line. You can pretty much do that one in a quick fashion. The out-of-bounds play, we saw that in the Michigan State game yesterday in the last minute. It looks like they took 3-4 minutes to try to figure that out, so it was like an extended timeout for the team. So I just think it could be done in a better way. Officials are human. They're not going to be perfect, but they got to figure out a way to utilize the technology a little bit better to at least make it go a little bit quicker. You can't review everything. That's not going to solve anything. There's going to be trial and error. There's going to be human error involved. But if you're going to review something, maybe have a little better guidelines as far as how long you can do so and to try to get the call right. EJ, I know you're a big fan of officials. Your thoughts on Butch's great topic.
Listen, I love officials. I don't know why I got to be the bad cop here. I'm actually not going to go too bad cop, though. But I want to talk about the officiating that I've been seeing here. And specifically, I want to talk a little NBA. Alvin Gentry, head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans, recently came out and was very critical of the NBA's officials. And he talked about how Anthony Davis never gets a call. I saw a graphic on ESPN the other day where the two guys in the league that have the highest fouls drawn per game are both Anthony Davis and Boogie Cousins, both New Orleans Pelicans players, at over 7 fouls drawn per game. I think if you're going to be critical of the referees, I think that you need to understand how many calls you are getting. I understand that the calls that he was arguing that game, and I don't know if you guys saw this, Manu Ginobili the other day did a couple of things against Anthony Davis and drew a few fouls, and they were given a hard time for a 3-point foul that was called against James Harden in a game, probably I think it was 2 days ago, where James Harden walked by the bench and winked at Alvin Gentry. He felt the need to bring that up. But if you're going to be super critical of the referees and say that your guy's not getting any calls, you probably want to make sure that he's not the player in the league that is active, that is getting the most calls per game. Anthony Davis has been drawing, I believe it was 7.3 fouls per game, whereas Boogie Cousins has been drawing 7.8. He's out with injury right now. But if you're going to be critical of officials, I think that you need to be educated in doing so. If you're going to do that, don't complain that your guy's not getting calls when he's the player in the league right now with the most calls per game. I understand the point that he was getting at, which is that officials do miss calls from time to time, but people need to remember, and this is where most people would expect me to be the bad cop, but officials aren't perfect, and we don't agree with them, and the bad cop part of me is the guy that I'm usually the one complaining about the calls that they miss, but officials are doing the best that they can. There is an element of human error in sport. That is what makes it so entertaining. But I think, Scott, you got it right on the head there that they need to try to set some kind of time frame for how long they have to make these calls. I know Major League Baseball kind of has a soft, and I'm putting that in air quotes, 2-minute clock. They want to get calls done in 120 seconds or less and get it figured out. I think we need to remember that these guys that are putting on the stripes or the gray jerseys in the NBA or whatever it is, that they're doing the best job that they can. And these are guys that we are paying quite a bit of money, or the league's paying quite a bit of money to them to get the jobs right. And I think that they're doing the best that they can. I understand that they're not going to get every call right, but go ahead and look back at the film and let's count how many times they did get it right, because most of the time they do. And you've heard me talk about this in the past, Scotty and Butch. Look at Major League Baseball reviews, and especially I'll talk about how ESPN's got the strike zone on TV. I'm always surprised at how many times umpires get it right when it's so difficult. The officials are trained to do their job. You are allowed to be critical of them, but allow there to be that element of error. Okay, they don't see everything. They don't always have the best angle. I do think that some leagues need to improve on their training of how to enforce certain rules or fouls or penalties or whatever it is. But I think for the most part, in the era that we live in now, where it's the instant age and you can see a replay every 2 seconds, the referees don't have that, whereas we do. I can go back on my DVR and rewind and watch something 100 times. The referees have to try to figure that out in the heat of the moment, where you have the crowd's energy. And as much as you don't want to say that influences their decision, I think it would be very hard if I was in that position to not let a crowd influence my decision, because you want the game to be high energy. You want it to be fun. You hope that doesn't happen, but the reality is that the way the game's played, and I'm talking about one specific game. You say, officials making up, you said make-up calls. I think that needs to go away. I think that officials just need to try to do their best to get it right the first time. Just because you mess something else up doesn't mean that you have to give a team another call. Just get it right. And I think that make-up calls need to go away. I think we need to be less critical of referees. They are human. They are going to make mistakes. But let's find, like you said, Scott, let's find an efficient way to use replay to help these officials. I'll talk about the Michigan first-round basketball game against the Montana Grizzlies. There was an 11-minute delay where Brad Nessler on TBS had to go and use his film to help an official get the call right. It did take a little bit too long. I believe it was an 11-minute total stoppage in that game. But give these guys the best chance they can to get it right. Set some kind of a time frame to allow them to get it right. Let's train them, and let's have those tools available. I know the NFL does a good job of using tablets to get in, and the NHL uses tablets to get the referees and assist them in getting the calls right. But let's make sure that we're doing the best job we can to get the calls right the first time, and let's do a better job with these leagues of giving our officials the tools to get the calls right as quickly as possible.
Lots of discussion on your topic. Butch, your thoughts before we get to my topic, sir?
Well, one of the tools that's not being used is that these officials are not being reviewed every single year or maybe every month or something in that nature there. That is something that needs to go into effect there. You got to be accountable for your actions. I'm looking at the Rosa here of Toronto last night get slapped upside the head. I looked at Mr. Davis get thrown to the ground by James Harden. These are blatant fouls. And you got 4 men or 4 women, or some women on the court, and they don't see none of this. It's quite dull. And what gets me is that these teams review the officials, and I'm quite sure they write them up for certain things they're not doing, or something that was just blatant foul, and they send it into the league. And my question is what the leagues are doing. NCAA, especially the NCAA. I think the NCAA has to pour its replay contingent of everybody who uses the replay there, and that needs to be thoroughly looked at and how they do it. If it has to be a clock, if it has to be a central location where they have officials are ringing by, watching and monitoring certain particular games, or maybe having an official up in the press box who deals with the instant replay per se, and have all angles that the networks have. And that's one of the questions that I had to pose to one of the NBA officials last year. Do you get all the angles that is given to us on television? And the answer I was given is no, okay? So again, working with maybe the television station independently to get those particular shots, that needs to be dealt with. It's sad when the ESPN or CBS or ABC, ESPN or any of them has to make the decision, already know the outcome, and then they go through a 10 or 15-minute ritual and still don't get it right. And that needs to be handled. Now, we know at the local portion of the, and I say the local portion where maybe a Scott Nason is involved. Many of the calls that are made are line of sight. I have to give that a pass. Many of the times, nerves get in the way, and I'm not saying it's Scott's, but many of the times these mistakes are being made is by the fans itself pressuring the officials and whatnot. And I don't know what the security is in some of these certain games or whatever it may be, but that needs to be thoroughly looked at as well here. It is bad, okay, when the fans sometimes can influence the umpires and the officials not to get it right there. And the back and forward passing it and turn it, as my mom used to call it there, where you blow the whistle on the team 1,000 times, then you decide to blow the whistle on the team or the other team 1,000 times to make up for all your screw ups. That just doesn't get it, okay? And so a lot of that needs to be reviewed. I think the big portion is that officials need to be reviewed on their, maybe have a camera out there and reviewing the officials' calls or whatever it may be, and giving them a report card of how good they are and what they need to study up on there. It has to be a vehicle where if someone's not getting it right, it has to be a reason why, and have some vehicles there to help that official do a better job. If it's positioning itself, if it's just seeing the play, maybe the guy is cockeyed and don't tell anybody and just making it $60, $80 just to, feed the family and not getting it right. That should not be the reason. They have to be accountable for what they do and how they do it on that floor.
We continue our roundtable discussion here on the game. Scott Nason broadcasting from the Wicked Sister in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, joined by Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports from the Metro Detroit area, and E.J. Russell on the Team Wireless hot seat from the Metro Escanaba area. My turn for a topic, guys, and, well, I had a lot of chances to watch the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Butch and you and I talked about it in the first hour, but boy, what a week of basketball. What a 4 days of basketball. And I've told many people, and I'll continue to say, that the first 4 days of the NCAA basketball tournament are some of the best days in sports, period. You have basketball wall to wall starting at noon going past midnight. So my question is, what was your take from this past weekend? I mean, you look at the Sweet 16. The Thursday games have all sorts of bracket busters, including Michigan. They'll take on Texas A&M as a 7 seed who knocked out North Carolina. Nevada, a 7 seed, down 22 against Cincinnati, winning that game, taking on Loyola of Illinois. Butch and I talked about them in the first hour. Kentucky, the highest seed in the South, at a 5, taking on Kansas State, who knocked out University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and arguably the biggest story of the tournament period. A 16 seed has finally won. Then you have in Michigan's bracket, number 4 Gonzaga taking on number 9 Florida State Thursday. Florida State knocked out number 1 seed Xavier. Friday games a little more to form besides Syracuse, the 11 seed, who knocked out Michigan State yesterday. They'll take on Duke in the Midwest. The other side of the bracket has number 1 Kansas against number 5 Clemson. And then the number 1 seed, the second number 1 seed Villanova, will take on West Virginia. They'll play the winner of Purdue and Texas Tech. So, Butch, you talked about your bracket. I talked about my bracket. Let's go to E.J. Russell. First of all, E.J., first question, how's your bracket holding up? And secondly, what's your takeaway? What are a couple of these stories that you want to remember and discuss here as far as the NCAA tournament?
Well, can we just talk about the East part of my bracket? Because that's pretty good, but everything else is...
I feel you.
I mean, it's shot. I think I watched the North Carolina game yesterday. I think that they deserve to lose. I really do think that Texas A&M was the better team there. Surprised to see Xavier lose to Florida State. Gonzaga beating my Buckeyes, not so shocking. I really didn't think that the Buckeyes would be in this position this year, getting the new head coach after removing Thad Matta. Purdue's in a really tough spot, losing their big center. And his name's eluding me right now.
Haas.
But he's got Haas, and he's got a fractured elbow. He's still dressing for games. He's doing well. But the one team for me, and a lot of people are surprised that I'm watching him as closely as I am, has been the University of Michigan.
Great story.
And I have them dinged to go to the Final Four. I filled out my bracket, and a lot of people give me grief for this. I picked Cincy to win it all just because everybody else picked somebody else. I see Kansas making it to the Final Four here. I think Michigan's still in a good position to get there. Purdue's got a tough road. Who knows who's going to come out of the South right now? I mean, you got Nevada versus Loyola and Kentucky versus Kansas. I think Kentucky comes out there in the end, but who's going to put anything past Loyola right now? Boy, have they been a lot of fun to watch. The South region, who knows what to expect out of there. You look at the West, you still got Michigan sitting there. But there's that out of all the good seeds remaining, and when I say good seeds, I mean 4 or higher left in the tournament, Michigan is the most concerning to me. And I watched the game that they played against the Montana Grizzlies, and it hands down was the most unentertaining basketball game I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't even think Michigan scored a point for the first 7.5 minutes, almost 8 minutes into the game before they made their first bucket. You got a high-caliber player in Mo Wagner there that needs to be getting the basketball far more often than he did in that game. You can't be relying on a guy like Poole, a freshman, to make a clutch three-pointer against a team like Houston to get you past the round of 32. Michigan comes into the Sweet 16 on an 11-game winning streak. They need to be getting their players that have been producing for them back into it. Guys like Mo Wagner and I'm trying to make sure I get his name right here. Rahim, does anybody have it for me? He's got one of the most Islamic names I've ever heard, but Abdul Rahim, whatever. Yeah, he's a player that needs to get back in those double digits. But Michigan's a team that they've had 3 or 4 players getting into double digits in every game. They need to get back to that. They need to refine their identity. I think it's good that they get a small break here. I know that their coach, who's one of the most underrated coaches in college basketball, is going to get them back on track. I still have Michigan making the Final Four here. I see them getting past Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M against UNC, how they beat them by 21 points, I find that a fluke. So I think Michigan gets past them easily, and I think that they beat the winner of Gonzaga and Florida State. Looking at the Midwest, Kansas is playing Clemson. I really don't see Clemson winning that game. I've watched some of their games this year. I don't think that they have the talent to get through there. Kansas coming off another Big 12 tournament championship. I think that they're going to continue to roll, and Bill Self, their head coach, has always gotten them in a position to win basketball games. Of course, you can't look past what I think is the best Sweet 16 matchup in Jim Boeheim versus Coach K. I think that's a game that I got to make sure. And if I'm somebody watching the college basketball tournament, I think that's the most intriguing game to me. 2 great head coaches with great history are going to go up against each other. Something that you get to see it in ACC play, but that's just something you don't get a chance to see in the tournament every day. I think Duke comes out on top there. But I think really the best team left in the tournament is Kansas. I think that they have the easiest route to finish off here. But if Michigan doesn't fix themselves, and I mean fix themselves in a hurry, they're going to see themselves losing this next basketball game.
Butch, I'm not going to prognosticate on any matchups. I will say at least I have a better bracket than Charles Barkley. I happen to be watching the women's basketball tournament right now, and the Central Michigan Chippewas are up 10 right now in their second-round matchup. So the madness is happening both for the men and the women. Your thoughts on my topic? I know we talked about it earlier, but if anything you want to add. And by the way, EJ, they're beating the Buckeyes.
Hey, Ohio State's got a good women's team. We might get this.
What's your thoughts on the NCAA tournament, sir?
I'll comment on the Michigan game first and foremost there. I thought that was a very good Michigan game. When they wasn't scoring a whole heck of a lot, the one thing they was doing is playing some doggone good defense there, okay? They kept the game close. They kept that game in reach where they can do something very special and win the game. Now, if you don't know about Mr. Jordan Poole makes those shots all the time in practice. I have been able to see one practice this year at the University of Michigan. That was in July, okay? And when there's summer practice and whatnot there, where very few media people go. But again, you're on campus and you seeing some people and you're in the area, you can go and see that. And happened to be Jordan Poole is the next door neighbor to one of my young lady's daughters, housing authority during the summer school there. So that's how I got to know Jordan Poole.
Nice.
This guy has done this religiously a whole heck of a lot of time. You know, sometimes you got to have the element of surprise. And I don't think anyone thought that Jordan Poole would get the ball at all. And they got it to him, and he was in position to shoot a shot with his legs all straddled, all open and whatnot, and make it on a dime. Now, something's not right there because this guy dumped nothing but net and won that game. I don't think you can take it away from him. Now, for the good part of the whole situation there, no, Mo Faulkner didn't score a whole heck of a lot. Robinson didn't score a whole heck of a lot. Raheem did not score a whole heck of a lot, got a lot of assists, didn't score a whole heck of a lot. So there's room for improvement with those three particular individuals right there. Watson's another one, okay? But again, I think now you look at where they were cold and they get hot, and you won't have to worry about Jordan Poole, okay? I don't think you're going to see him a whole heck of a lot in the game unless there's a dire emergency, but that's going to be something special. Some of the other brackets and whatever it may be that we saw. We talked about on the show last week with myself and Scott on the Tuesday special edition of the game there about Nevada. Wow. I did mention them, and they're still there, okay? And, you know, these are some of the wacky picks I took, and they seem to come up there. New Mexico State. Now, they did well the first time, but they lost out there, but they're strong appearance. I agree with EJ on the best game is going to be the Duke and the Syracuse game, because these are two fine wine coaches there. Boeheim has been known to play a good defense. He runs one of the best zones of all of college basketball. Knows how to flip those zones around where it causes a whole heck of a lot of confusion. And the big thing about his zones is majority of the players, again, I'll repeat that, are 6'9" or above, okay? We're talking about the guards as well. So you have to do some really good, and that's where I think Michigan State got lost in the sauce. You got someone 6'1" and trying to get over a 6'9" guy to shoot over him, and they're not giving you any kind of direction at all. They're waving their hands back and forth, and they're spreading the floor out so where their hands are touching each other, practically touching each other in that front line where the three men were and the two men were in the back. That is a very, very hard nut to swallow there. And again, Michigan State took it on the chin. You can't blow them out from effort. They did make an effort. You got to give that to Michigan State. But again, they was out-tricked on that doggone zone there, and they had everything going on. Again, all the segments of basketball has to come into play. And one thing that State didn't do very well is shoot free throws. If they made it free throws, we're not talking about Syracuse. We're not talking about them at all. They lose the game. Syracuse I'm talking about here. But again, if all your segments are right in the game, in the perfect scenario there, Michigan's going to win. They're going to beat Texas, whatever it may be. It's going to be some excitement. I see Candace going up there doing their thing, and they don't. Shame on them. And I agree with Scott again. The first 4 days were the most exciting. I have not seen so much action and the surprises. And no matter you watch the early game or the later game, there was something there for everybody there. And I was very pleased at that particular, all those games that were being played.
Guys, I'll close out the topic with this. The NCAA basketball tournament just creates such just magic as far as watching it, seeing these small schools. And, I take away 3 schools as far as the best memories so far in this tournament, I mean, you got to say University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I was dozing a little bit Friday night watching that game. I saw it was 21-21, and I had a chance to talk to our own Tim Ellis at Eagle 95.1 the night before. We were discussing, I don't think I'm ever going to see a number 16 seed knock off a number 1 seed, and especially that one. Of all the 16 and 1s, I think that one was probably the most unlikely. This Retrievers team
the
that
number 1 overall
needed a
seed.
3-point shot just to make the tournament, knocking out Vermont in the America East, and taking on a Virginia that had been solid all year long. No team had scored 70 points against them, period. They lost twice. Duke didn't score 70 points against them at Cameron, and this Retrievers team got hot in the second half, and they built the lead. And you just could see, you're thinking in your mind, okay, you're waiting for the Virginia run. You're waiting for the Virginia run, and it never came. And it was because that they won the game. It wasn't that Virginia lost the game. It's because this unheralded team with all these guys who are now kind of household names won the game by 20. That was something that you will never forget as far as NCAA tournaments, and you may never see for a while, at least a 16 beating a 1. Loyola Chicago, 11 seed, a small school. I love their mascot, if you will, this 98-year-old lady there who's, I think, a chaplain or something to that nature there. And after the game where they beat Tennessee, all the players went over there and gave her a big hug, and just that kind of thing is just great. Nevada, the Wolfpack, a team that's been in the tournament a while but hasn't quite making that run. They're down 22 points to Cincinnati, a team that many people thought had a chance to win, and they come back and win. And those are the types of stories that you just have in this tournament that you can't recreate in any other sport, any other tournament. You look at a team like Central Florida in football. They're probably watching this saying, hey, where's our shot? We beat everybody we played, and we beat Auburn in the football playoffs, and they don't have a chance to win the title. That's why the NCAA men's basketball tournament and the women's is just, there's magical moments, and why it's one of my favorite sporting events of the year. Gentlemen, let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. EJ Russell on the Team Wireless hot seat. We will start with you. Your thumbs up and thumbs down, sir.
Well, I'm going to ask for permission before I do it here, but can I get multiple thumbs up?
We have time. Go ahead.
Oh, thank goodness. Well, I want to give a thumbs up to 2 former Solon Comets alumni of my high school who both, when they graduated, were the all-time leading scorers in women's basketball. Dee Bakalia, playing for DePaul University, playing in this NCAA tournament, as well as Kristen Confroy, also playing for Maryland in this tournament. Very excited to see 2 alumni from my high school succeeding in their NCAA careers. Very excited for the both of them. Also want to give a thumbs up to Mr. Cleveland Browns, in my opinion, Mr. number 2 Cleveland Browns, Joe Thomas, who has announced his retirement from the NFL after 11 seasons, played over 10,000 consecutive snaps, I believe is an NFL record. I think it's somewhere closer around 10,600 plus consecutive snaps. The city of Cleveland has announced that July 3rd, which is 7-3, which is Joe Thomas's number, will be Joe Thomas Day in Cleveland. I don't know if you'll hear this or not, but I just want to say that as a Clevelander, Joe, you've made us very, very proud. And you joined us from the moment that you skipped the draft to go fishing with your dad, to the way that you conducted yourself on the field, and you just giving us your all. As a Cleveland Browns fan, I just want to give you one heartfelt thank you. I'm sure you'll never hear this, but if you do, thank you for everything that you did. If you ever want to skip anything to go fishing again, I got a couple of rods ready to go. But I think that he deserves a tip of the cap, a man that really just exemplifies everything that it means to be a professional athlete, gave back to his community, the only multiple-time award winner of the Walter Payton Man of the Year award from the Cleveland Browns, nominated for the league trophy in 2012. Just really an absolute class act, and gave everything to a team and wanted to win. And I'm not going to get this quote exactly right, but he always believed that, and it's almost quote, I think there would be something to be said to win and turn this organization around, end quote. And I believe that Joe Thomas is just exactly what any sports fan could hope for out of a guy that signs with your team. So, Joe Thomas, thank you for everything that you've done. We love you. We'll miss you. And as you would say, let's go Brownies. Thumbs down for the week. I want to give a thumbs down to Tyronn Lue from the Cleveland Cavaliers, who's decided to step away. I think that in a difficult season, he's taking the easy way out. They're citing health concerns. I don't know how much I truly believe that. If it is for health concerns, I would happily retract my thumbs down, but I don't think that that's the case. I think that he's got his championship now that he's won as a coach. I believe that he has one or a couple championships as a Los Angeles Laker. But Tyronn Lue, thumbs down. We're about ready to make a playoff push, and you walk away from the team. That's not what it's about, to be a teammate. And as a Clevelander, I'm very unhappy to see that. But if it is for health reasons, like the press release says, I'll take it all back. I just don't believe that to be the case. But really, I think it's been a great week in sports. The NCAA tournament's been good. Don't have too much bad. I really didn't have anything bad to say until I saw that Tyronn Lue thing. But great week in sports. Excited to see what you guys have.
Well said, EJ. Let's go to Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports. Butch, your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week, sir.
Boy, I'm going to have fun busting this guy in the mouth here. Okay, and I'm going to bust you in the mouth just here on this.
As long as you don't talk bad about Joe Thomas, I'm fine.
Okay, Joe Thomas ain't got nothing to do with this here. Joe Thomas is the guy here.
Yeah, you can't make fun of my Joe.
Okay, well, Joe, let's get to today. Your last comment, and keep your mouth closed while I'm talking. Here's the deal, okay? So you can get some facts here. So what you don't believe, disbelieve here. Tyronn Lue is a good friend of mine. I've been knowing Tyronn Lue right now for about 15 years. I'm also pleasure and privileged to know his cousin, who works for Fox 2 News. The young lady's named Mario Lue, which is his cousin. Now, I spent this afternoon around about 2 o'clock when I got the word on to find out what was true. And I so happened to have his cousin's number, so I gave that a ringy-dingy. When someone reports that their health is in order, that has to be dealt with here. And this man has been through an awful lot this season with some of the shenanigans that has been going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's something to be very, very truthful about when he comes out and say, you know what, I have to get my health in order. I don't think that is to be questioned by any human being in town when someone wants to get their health in order, okay? No game is big, that big, where you put your health in the toilet, okay? I don't care what kind of fan you are. I thought that was very mean-spirited that you just said about the man in general here. And unless you have the absolute facts that this man is not sick, I don't think that comment was in good taste at all. Okay? And if necessary, I will have Mario Lue, because I have your number, give you a call. And if she did, I don't think it would be a pleasant one. So I will keep that at bay as well. But let's clean that on up right now. He has some health concerns. And we are not going to question that. We're all professional. We wish him well in getting himself together. And hopefully he'll be in the playoffs to conduct another championship run for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, my thumbs up is for NCAA basketball this week and also for some of the girls' basketball that was played this weekend. There were some very exciting games up in the Calvin Coolidge Arena in Van Note. I watched a heck of a lot of it there when I had my little busy time for not taking a nap or drinking a beer, and it was quite amusing there. And congratulations to all those girls who won championships and the ones who partake in those championship drives there. No one knows how hard those shoes are that those young ladies feel, that they go out there and give their all to everyone or anyone to get out there and do their business there. We have Wade Memorial there, looking good the first half, but by golly, they failed the second half and got their rear end kicked by East Lansing there. But the day that school welcomed them with open arms, okay, on the job that they had done. This is what basketball is all about. This is what athletic sports is all about. And I commend all those girls for what they've done this weekend. Hopefully, this weekend in East Lansing, we have the same results of some great, great basketball.
Absolutely, and we talked about the UP team involved, Chassell in Class D losing in the final, so hats off to those ladies as well. First state final since the 1950s. I only have thumbs up, guys. I'm going to give 3 thumbs up. First of all, thumbs up to the NCAA basketball tournament. Butch said it well there, and I said it in the last segment. Just a lot of fun to watch, some great stories. The Retrievers of Maryland, Baltimore County, Nevada, and Loyola Chicago. Kind of the little schools. I'm a big fan of the little guys and seeing those little schools do well, not make the Sweet 16 for the Retrievers, but the other 2 teams making the Sweet 16s. Unfortunately, they have to play each other, but hey, one of those teams will make the Elite 8, so I'm all about the small schools. And a cold thumbs up to the University of Michigan and class, and that's not easy for me to say, being a Michigan State guy. It's something I don't say often as far as that. I really liked after the game against Houston when they hit the 3-point shot, Wagner, who didn't have the best game on the court. All the Michigan players went over and celebrated. Wagner went right up to the Houston player that was dejected and shook his hand. I just thought that was really cool, and it really goes to the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines there, and just what he has done. I'm a big fan of him, and again, this is coming from a Michigan State guy, so that's even more of a double thumbs up. Want to give a thumbs up to Michigan Tech Huskies and Sioux Michigan native Joe Sean. He grew up 2 houses down from me on Minneapolis Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. My sister used to babysit his kids. He went to Lake State, and, well, for reasons unbeknownst to me, he has not had a head coaching job in college hockey until this year, and he is the head coach of the Michigan Tech Huskies. And the Huskies, the 5 seed in the WCHA tournament, and won 5 road games, including Saturday in Marquette over Northern Michigan to earn a spot in the NCAA hockey championship game. This is a guy that has won at every level he has coached, including the North American Hockey League and now in college hockey. He does things the right way. He is respected by his players. He's respected by the community, and he's a family guy. And Joey, congratulations. I am very happy for you. And go beat Notre Dame and former Laker head hockey coach Jeff Jackson. And our final thumbs up here, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Butch, but I want to give a big thanks to Butch Davis, E.J. Russell, Dave McKeag, all the contributors that Dave has on his sports shows from Boston Pizza and Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sioux, Ontario, and our brand new website, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. We are getting record traffic as far as people listening to not just this show, but Dave's shows over in Sioux, Ontario, Butch's show, Butch on Sports, in the Metro Detroit area, as well as our Sioux Eagles broadcast, Brindley Bay's broadcast, my segments with Paul Van Wagner on The Drive, ESPN Blacksburg. It's something that's continuing to grow, and we're getting to the point of the season where we'll be off the radio for a little bit due to lack of local sports. We're going to continue during the show here from the Wicked Sister during the spring and summer months. We're just on to something big. It continues to get better and better. We also have a YouTube channel for those that don't want to listen to or maybe can't find the podcast page. You can go to my YouTube channel. It's Scott Nason. You can find all the broadcasts on thegamesportshow.podbean.com. So EJ, Butch, and the entire crew, including our broadcast engineers, Katie Woolen, along with Brendan Benson and Lance Monroe, a big thank you goes out to me. We've had a great year. We're going to continue it during the off season. That's going to do it here from the Wicked Sister. But before we go, final thoughts. EJ, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we'll be back here next Monday, depending on the Sioux Eagles schedule. Any final thoughts tonight, my friend?
Yeah, I take back my thumbs down. I tried to preemptively give myself my out here. The NBA, and let me try to clarify my statement. The NBA has been a league where a lot of players take days off, stating it's for health reasons, but it's very clearly for rest purposes. So I wasn't sure how I felt about reading that Tyronn Lue stepped away for health reasons. I'm glad to hear it's for legitimate health reasons. Having said that, I take that back my thumbs down. I have no thumbs down. If Mario Lue calls me, I will save this recording of this show so that I can tell him that I took it back. But I'll wish Tyronn Lue the best of health. But happy to be here. Thanks, Scotty, for the props. I'm glad to hear that we're hitting record numbers here. I think that part of the reason we're hitting record numbers is because Butch gives me so much crap from time to time, so we'll throw it to Butch for the next one here.
That's right. He's keeping you in check, sir. Butch Davis, final thoughts
Please keep
before
me
we let you
honest.
go.
You're my friend, EJ. And when
Hey,
somebody jump
I
you,
take it
I'm
back.
going to jump in there with them, and I'm going to say EJ. That's it. But what I said was not in vain, but you know what? We are classy guys on this show. We didn't get where we are right now from not being classy, but we got where we are right now because we got somewhere in somebody's corner, and that's including you, who knew something that somebody else didn't know. And so I think that's what makes our show greatly legit. And I just had to say that because that's what I did at 2:00 when I found out. The first thing one of my Facebook buddies and then one of my drinking buddies when we had these media parties with is Mario Lou, and she's one of my friends and whatnot. Gracious, beautiful woman, by the way, here. You haven't got to. Okay, but I had to clean that on up there. With good.
I give you that.
Okay.
Very good. Butch, EJ, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys next week on The Game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it here from the Wicked Sister. Want to thank our guests, EJ Russell, Butch Davis, Steve Hettinga from the Laker men's basketball team, and our broadcast engineer, Katie Woolen. Now, don't forget, we will be here tomorrow, or I should say next week, Monday night, at the Wicked Sister if the Sioux Eagles and Thunderbirds series does not go 6 games. My guess is it probably will. So in that case, we'll have an online show. And just stay tuned to this show and our podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. That's going to do it here from the Wicked Sister. We will talk to you soon on Eagle 95.1.
Yeah.